Hello, everybody. This is going to be a look back at week two and a look ahead to see what week three holds for us. First, looking back at the reading questions from week two, I want to talk a little bit about the rationale behind assigning readings and reading questions. The readings all lay out the most important conceptual framework of the course. So, in that way, please make sure you realize that these are worthwhile to do because all of the big ideas that get discussed in the readings will be ones that we'll use in one way or another. In fact, we'll probably use them all in multiple ways. This is also one of the ways that the course kind of makes up for being online. Generally, I would like to be able to do these readings and discussions in person, but this is the best way I've got to make that work in a digital environment. And actually, it seems to have been working pretty well. It's a chance for me to see how you've been engaging with the course so far. And that chance goes beyond just looking at the writing. It actually gives me a chance to sort of look at how things are working in process as you go from the reading that's assigned to the course towards eventually absorbing and using everything that's been in that reading. And like I said before, this is a chance for interactions with classmates, and those have been great. I've been very happy to see a whole sequence of forum threads and posts and replies with every single time that anything is due through the discussion board. So definitely keep that up. That's really good. Now, in terms of difficulties that arose here, I've got to say a thing that I'm sure I'll end up saying again. I always do. I can't grade what I can't understand. And so, if there are grammatical or correctness errors that mean that I can't make heads or tails of the submission on the Blackboard Dropbox or in the discussion forum, I can't give it credit because I can't understand it. So it's a really compelling reason to make sure that not only are we clarity minded as we write, but we also go back and proofread things before we submit them. Speaking of submissions and such, please work to develop your submissions to your reading questions fully. If not, if you're only discussing those sort of at the minimum necessary, you're playing a risky game. You are gambling that the few things that you've written there are exactly correct. Whereas with a little more development, not only do you have the additional detail that shows that you've really thought about it, but you've also got a little bit of wiggle room should not every single thing be as accurate as every other thing. So, again, it's a good reason to develop those answers fully. STEM writing really does point out that clarity is key. Like we've said before, in a lot of ways, when we deal with STEM type topics, we're dealing with topics that are themselves so complex that our writing has to be a kind of a counterweight. It has to be simple where there is complexity in subject matter. It has to be clear where the subject matter might be unclear, again, due to its difficulty. Make sure that when you answer the questions, you answer those based on the context that they're in the text. There were a couple of questions, numbers two and three, in fact, in the assigned questions for last week, where if you just answered those off the top of your head, the answers weren't really accurate because of the very specialized way that the reading discussed those two concepts. Feel free to go back and look at those, but they had to do with the way that the concepts were specially discussed. This was the question about paraphrases and the potential they have to become absurd at some times. And just before that, it was the question having to do with the way the paraphrase can actually help us to make sure that we fully understand what someone else is saying, right? Again, we could easily answer those things off the tops of our heads, but we're probably not getting that answer exactly the way the textbook does. And, like I said, the textbook knows what it's doing. In fact, just to address the last bullet point here, we want to try to get a feel for the textbook's approach to its subject matter and writing in general. Number one, because it's going to help us to be able to explain and understand everything. Number two, because when it comes to individual concepts, we're going to be able to see why those things are coming up. And finally, the author of the book, Bazerman, is really well known in composition studies. This is a person who has been publishing in scholarly and academic journals. This is someone who's done his own research work over a number of years. And really, his textbooks are some of the best known in this particular part of composition studies. So the way that he's talking about understanding things is just as important as the things themselves, I promise. On to the Explain It essay. I wanted to touch upon what is a direct quote from the text from the assignment itself. The quote goes, "Your explanation may have to do with how it works, how it happens, how it should be better understood, how people do it, or with some other clarification that is necessary to help the average person better understand the topic itself. And notice that I've got a couple of phrases there that are in bold. The bold terms should be reminiscent of some reading that you did for the week before, the modes reading. Remember that how it works and how it happens are directly related to process analysis writing. And you'll notice the process analysis here is highlighted in green. I'll make sure to include a quote to the presentation for you. You can actually click on process analysis and it'll take it to the reading that you already did, the part of the reading that talks about what process analysis is and what it does. So if you're wondering exactly where I'm getting these terms and why they matter, that link will take you to them. There was one, pardon me, there was one central question that I asked myself as I read the submissions. Does this tell me something about how the topic works or how it happens that I didn't know before? And the clearer that answer was for me, the better that the submission started by saying something about that and developed it, the more successful the submission was. Right. But at the end of the day, again, we were looking for that sort of central point to grow everything off of and from. In terms of where places where credit was lost, excuse me, um, the number one place where credit was lost was writing that tells me about the topic, but not really about how it works or how it happens. In other words, writing was just sort of about the thing, but not developing it in terms of a process analysis. After that, there were other more administrative reasons why some credit was lost, including late submissions. There was sometimes a lack of adequate development. Remember that the length guideline stated 2.5 to 3 pages. Coming in below that was really a way of just guaranteeing that you weren't saying enough about the topic. There were also, like I mentioned in terms of the posted answers for the reading out of the Bazerman book, problems with clarity and correctness. Again, I can't give credit to what I can't understand. So if there are enough problems with clarity and correctness that mean that substantial portions of the essay were simply not able to be read or understood, I couldn't give credit for those because I didn't understand them, right? And if the reading or the writing can't be understood, the next question is, should we have done it? How should we have done it? And did we do it well enough? And lastly, even though I had emphasized that I was looking to avoid source usage problems by simply not having to rely upon research, there was the occasional case in which I had to develop, or pardon me, to take a little bit of credit away because of the fact that we were over relying on some external sources. There are at least a couple of situations where there was some serious copying and pasting going on, which was just not academically honest. Looking ahead, the Explain It video lesson that'll be due at the end of the week this week will be based, more or less, on the Explain It short response essay submission. And I say more or less because in some cases you'll be able to base this quite closely on the Explain It short essay, where in other ones it's going to take a little bit of work because the short essay response might not have worked the way it needed to. So we're going to work with the same topic. We'll have the same goal. We're explaining how something works or how something happens. We've got the same audience, and this is crucial. The audience is your peers, people who can understand all you can, and people with the same approximate body of knowledge you have. What's different? Well, the main thing is your persona, your face, nonverbal cues, voice, manner of speaking. This is also going to extend to visual aids, pacing, and last, what another famous author, a guy by the name of William Zinsser, likes to refer to as warmth and humanity. I understand that these last two things are largely intangible, but warmth and humanity really are ways of referring to that kind of ineffable feeling that there is a real human being talking to you and who wants you to listen to them, right? So as we go about producing this video and simply deciding how we plan to talk about the topic that we talk about, we do want to be able to convey that sense of warmth and humanity, of real interest, of real care about the topic and the extent to which we allow our audience, the people watching the video lesson, to not only understand the topic, but really understand why it is that we care about it and we care about them, right? Warmth and humanity. So this has been a look back at week 2 and a little bit of a look ahead at what the Explain It video lesson is going to require of us. The other thing that you want to make sure to do is start taking a look at the material that's been posted to Blackboard in regards to public discourse, because that's going to be the focus of our next project.